Hello and welcome to the ONIT National Championship Recap. What a game we had on Monday night, and we're breaking it all down right here, including some of the key players and a look at Indiana's undefeated season. Before we jump on in, please do hit that subscribe button, as it really does help us out here at ONIT if you haven't already. So take a look and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content, and stick around to the end of the video. That way we can tell you about what's coming up in our future plans and how you can potentially be involved in those with some of your ONIT cards as we start to roll out our winter sports selection. Let's begin though by diving into what's in our National Championship Recap box. What's in the box? Our National Championship Recap box features our locally sourced but nationally relevant headlines for the Indiana Hoosiers as they complete a 16-0 perfect season with a national championship last night, the first in school history. We'll then take a look at the two Gem Mint 10 performers on offense and defense for the Hoosiers in making the grade. And lastly, we'll look at Indiana's path to 16-0 as we recap their playoff run and some of their regular season games that got them to this point. We'll begin though by taking a look at the national championship game that happened on Monday night between Miami and Indiana. What a game this was. It really had a little bit of everything for us. Indiana 27, Miami 21 as the Hoosiers wrap up their undefeated 16-0 season with their first national championship. Crazy stuff. Great game. What a turnaround for the Indiana program under Curt Cignetti. They came into this season as the losingest team in college football history, and now they have secured their first championship. And it was a game that had something for everybody. Great defense, gutsy play calls, decisions that had to be made on fourth down that were, questionable, and then late heroics and late drama. Everything that a game could have, this game provided for us, which was awesome to see. And Indiana walks out the door with the 6-point victory. It started slow, so for people that maybe thought we were going to be in for a boring game, that did change quickly because that first quarter, not a whole lot was going on. Neither team could really convert on third down, and they were struggling to move the ball whatsoever against these great defenses. Indiana puts up a field goal. Miami gets nothing on the board in that first quarter. Then finally in the second quarter, Indiana goes on a methodical drive. They get into the end zone on the 1-yard touchdown plunge from Riley Nowakowski, and that gives Indiana their first touchdown of the game, us our first touchdown of the game, makes it 10-0. And at the end of that first half, that's where we had our first little bit of drama. Mario Cristobal has a decision to make on 4th and 2 with just about a minute left in the half. He decides to send his kicker out there for a 50-yard field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 2 and trying to get either closer or into the end zone for Miami. Kicker ends up missing the field goal. Indiana takes over with potentially the opportunity to add some points at the end of the half. Instead, they call a run play, burn off 20 or 25 seconds from the clock without using a timeout. Then the next play, they pass it, and they get over midfield with the potential to get into field goal range, but now they only have 5 seconds remaining. And so Indiana does not get to attempt a field goal at the end of the half. Instead, they go for a Hail Mary that ends up incomplete. So Indiana doesn't add any points there, which could have extended their lead and maybe made a big difference in this game, or at least on how it would have felt to Miami after missing the field goal, and then Indiana goes and scores on you instead. So we go to the second half, 10-0, and this was where one of the biggest plays, if not the biggest plays of the game, happened in the second half. After Miami managed to break off a long touchdown run from Mark Fletcher Jr., the Hurricanes get the ball back inside their own 10-yard line. They're forced to punt, and this is where Mikhail Kamara makes one of the biggest plays of the game. He blocks the punt. Miami just didn't block him for whatever reason. He fights through, blocks the punt. It's recovered in the end zone for a touchdown. Huge game-changing play in what was a 10-7 game, now becomes a 17-7 game. That was a massive swing right there for Indiana on that blocked punt. Really shifted the game completely around in terms of momentum. In my opinion, I think that was the biggest play of the game. But then in the fourth quarter, you had some huge plays too. One of them being the first fourth down call for Indiana. They drop back to pass. They go back shoulder to Charlie Becker. It's not the best throw from Mendoza. He's made better throws in his career. I think he would agree to that. But Charlie Becker makes an amazing adjustment on the back shoulder, goes down, gets it, catches the ball, has to double catch it, gets a foot down inbounds, and Indiana converts on 4th down to keep the drive alive, while Miami is barreling in on them at 17-14 at this point. Then, on another 4th down, this time 4th and 5, they call a quarterback draw, and Mendoza bolts up the middle, shrugs off contact, spins around, dives into the end zone, gets absolutely plastered, but he crosses the plane, holds on to the football, and Indiana scores a crucial touchdown on the 4th and 5 conversion. Mendoza's only touchdown of the game that helped Indiana separate yet again as Miami was on the warpath. They score another touchdown. Then they make a crucial stop. So Indiana has to settle for a field goal. Makes it 27-21. Miami gets the ball back. No timeouts. Just under 2 minutes to go in the game. They're driving down the field. They get into field goal range. They're knocking on the door of the red zone, and Carson Beck tries to fit in a vertical route in between the safety and the corner down at the 10-yard line. It is intercepted by Indiana, and the Hoosiers win the ball game thanks to the game-sealing interception. And just like we talked about in the preview show, whichever team turned the ball over least was going to win this game, and it ended up being Indiana. A clean game from the Hoosiers. No turnovers, no interceptions, no fumbles, no special teams miscues. Miami gives up the blocked punt for a touchdown and throws an interception on the final drive of the game. Those 2 turnovers sealed their fate in a 6-point loss, and Indiana gets to add the first star to their football uniforms with the title win. It was a great game. Beck and Mendoza played really well. The defenses were unbelievable. Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor were causing so much havoc when Indiana was dropping back to pass. There were some key penalties for both teams that really derailed drives and caused them to either miss out on points or have to settle for 3 points. It was just a great game overall, and a big congratulations to Curt Cignetti, Fernando Mendoza, this entire Indiana roster, and the city of Bloomington. For years, they've had nothing to cheer about, nothing to be excited about when it came to football. That has all changed rapidly. Back-to-back playoff appearances, their first national title. Things are looking up in Bloomington, Indiana, and the Hoosiers are on top of the college football world. What a crazy year it has been. And let's take a look now at the 2 biggest contributors to Indiana's victory in this game as we look at who made the grade. Time for making the grade. Today, we're looking at the 2 most impactful Indiana Hoosiers that helped them win the national championship on Monday night. We've got a Gem Mint 10 performer on the offensive side and a Gem Mint 10 performer on the defensive side to celebrate this final game in the college football season. And we'll start on the defensive side because we love NIL for all here at ONIT. It is none other than Mikhail Kamara. Had to be with his punt block for a touchdown. That was such a pivotal moment in this game. It switched the momentum, gave Indiana breathing room, and helped them secure this title. They only won the game by 6 points, and that being one of 2 Miami turnovers helped Indiana put those extra points up on the board. Of course, he was blocked straight into the end zone for a touchdown recovery that helped Indiana just get a free 7 points on the board in the blink of an eye. And so for that reason, Kamara has to be our Gem Mint 10 performer on the defensive side. He also added in 4 tackles and 3 solo. So contributing on the defensive end for Indiana while also contributing on special teams off the edge. That's why he is our Gem Mint 10 performer for the Hoosiers on the defensive side of the ball. And then on the offensive side, it is the player of the year, the Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza. Indiana didn't need him to be at his best to win this game, but when they needed him most, he delivered. We talked about the 4th down touchdown run in the recap. That was one of those moments where grit, determination, he would not be stopped as he barreled his way into the end zone, and he showed that heart and that toughness that he has shown all season long. His stats were pretty solid, 16 of 27, 186 yards, had the rushing touchdown, no passing touchdowns, but no interceptions. But I think the most important plays were the ones that he made on crucial downs. The 4th down conversion to Charlie Becker, the 4th down touchdown run, and then the 3rd down back shoulder throw to Charlie Becker as well. Anytime Mendoza needed a hookup, Charlie Becker was his man. Their connection was once again on full display, and they converted key downs for Indiana that allowed them to secure the 6-point victory. And for that reason, Fernando Mendoza is our Gem Mint 10 offensive performer for this game. And the Heisman Trophy winner wraps up his season by adding another trophy to his cabinet. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my 2 Gem Mint 10 performers. These are our last football Gem Mint 10 performers for the season. So tell me who you think it should have been, or tell me who you think was the Gem Mint 10 performer of the entire season. We'd love to hear your thoughts down below, as we're now going to take a look at how Indiana completed this magical run on their way to 16-0. This is Indiana's path to 16-0 this season. Their final 10 games of the year on display right here for the Hoosiers. But there were a couple of games too prior to these ones that were really important. The first game of the season against Old Dominion, a 27-14 victory. Old Dominion ended up being a very good football team this year. And on the first play of the season for Indiana, they gave up a 75-yard rushing touchdown. You thought maybe the magic from last year had gone out the door right away, but they managed to come back, win that game 27-14, which started off this amazing 16-0 season. And then in a 3-week stretch, they get number 9 Illinois, who they plaster 63-10. The next week, they go to Iowa, a 2015 win as Mendoza shows off his clutch 4th quarter playmaking ability. Then the week after, they're on the road at Autzen, a 30-20 win over the number 3 Oregon Ducks as they go back-to-back to very hostile environments at Kinnick and at Autzen stadiums and win both of those games, with Mendoza shaking off mistakes in the 4th quarter in each of them to lead the Hoosiers to victories. And then we get into this stretch that you see here, the final 10 games of the season. They just start blowing out teams. I think it was those 3 wins. They blew out Illinois, of course, but those 3 wins in a row of Illinois, Iowa, Oregon that gave this team a lot of confidence to demolish the back half of their schedule. And that's what you see in a lot of these results here. Michigan State, 38-13. A UCLA team that was streaking at the time. They had just beaten Penn State, had pulled off a couple of upset wins after firing their head coach. Indiana stomps them out, 56-6. Maryland destroyed Penn State on the road. Another very close game. Penn State season, as many of you know, collapsed by this point. But the Indy Lions still have a ton of talent. They had a lot of talent all season long, and they played Indiana as tough as you possibly could. The Omar Cooper Jr. catch, all of you remember it, in the back of the end zone. Another turning point for this Indiana team, who really just would not be denied as they win that game 27-24, and then blowouts of Wisconsin and Purdue to make it to the Big Ten championship game against undefeated Ohio State. They squeak out a close one there in the 13-10 victory over Ohio State. And then in the playoffs, Alabama dismantled, Oregon destroyed, and finally Miami. It was a dogfight last night, but the Hoosiers overcoming once again. This was a team that was battle-tested. Like I said, when you look at the schedule, there were different moments where everything had to come up right for Indiana, and they knew what to do. They knew how to execute in those crucial moments, and that is how they ended up being a 16-0 team, the first since Yale all the way back in the 1800s. The wins over Iowa, over Oregon, and over Penn State, along with the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. That is 4 really tough wins where Indiana had to dig deep and find out what they were made of, and so it made that national championship game where they had to dig deep once again and try to hold off a Miami comeback, made it a reality for the Hoosiers. 5 really, really difficult games for this Indiana team where they overcame adversity, overcame struggles. I mean, they played Miami in their own backyard, for goodness sake, last night. That was a home game for Miami in the national championship game, and it didn't faze Indiana, who are your 2025 national champions in college football. Incredible stuff from Indiana, and we've had a blast covering the college football season all year long here at ONIT. Can't wait for 2026 already. We're going to have new faces in new places, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll see who comes out on top next season. So that'll do it for our college football preview and recap shows, but we still will have some college football shorts coming out. If anything happens, you bet that we will be on it, covering it here at ONIT. For now, though, we're going to be moving on into basketball. So for those of you who love college basketball, don't fear, we haven't forgotten about our winter sports. We're going to be talking college hoop every Friday and a Tuesday. So we'll be covering the games for the week leading up into the weekend, and then we'll recap the games from the weekend and take a look at the week ahead on Tuesday. So if you love college basketball, make sure you stick around, hit that subscribe button. We will still have college football covering as well as our winter sports continue to roll out. We're going to have a ton of fun here, but basketball is next on the agenda here with the weekly recaps and previews. So stay tuned for that. We've got a fun assortment of teams that we will be covering, all of them with different aspirations on the year. Really excited to get to start covering those teams now that football is over. And lastly, if you want to submit any of your ONIT hits to us, whether you start pulling some heat out of these winter sport boxes, or if you're still opening any of the football, whether it's team sets, gravity, or the brand new black release that is coming down the pipeline here shortly, we'd love to see you share those hits with us so we in turn can share them with the community right here on the YouTube channel. Submit your hits down at the link below, onitathlete.com/highlights. If you pull any great ONIT cards, we will show them here on the YouTube channel, and we'll talk about them with everyone who follows and watches. Hope you enjoyed today's video. We thank you so much for your time and spending time with us here throughout the football season. Be on the lookout for some basketball content dropping this Friday. Thanks so much, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your week, and we will see you on Friday.